What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder. Avengers Doomsday continues filming now at Windsor Great Park. And on this new set is seemingly confirmation that Chris Evans is indeed returning as Captain America. Not only that, but it does point to Haley Atwell returning as well. And this specific scene that we are about to dive into might not be what we thought it was, because Dr. Doom is reportedly going to be involved in this scene. Now, there's a very specific reason why this scene is taking place. The reason the scene is going to take place between Steve, Peggy, and Dr. Doom set back in time, which we'll get into in just a bit, but the reason it's taking place is to bring back the literal Steve Rogers from the main 616 timeline. Not a different variant of Steve Rogers out there somewhere, but the actual one that we met in Captain America, the First Avenger, the one that fought alongside Tony this entire time and then fought against Tony in Civil War, but the same exact one that wielded Mjolnir in Avengers Endgame. At the end of Avengers Endgame, he went back in time to return all of the stones, but then he stayed back in time, which apparently broke the rules. This reportedly is leading to an incursion that Steve Rogers caused, and since Dr. Doom views himself as the hero of Avengers Doomsday, he is going across the multiverse trying to save it, and apparently he's making some stops to take out the people who caused incursions, and that would be Steve Rogers in this instance. So, according to Unbox PhD, who is the account that has been leaking all of the set photos from Avengers Doomsday, they have their drone on set, they've been taking a ton of pictures. Pretty much all the leaked photos that we've got of the set have come from them. Well, 4 days ago, they reported that Steve and Peggy's house has been rebuilt at Windsor Great Park for the Doomsday production. They stated, "Windsor set Marvel, photos not allowed, but they have built Steve and Peggy Carter's house. Ready to film, filming this Friday and next Friday. Looks just like this, but smaller, and only one side is being filmed." Now, what's interesting is that originally we saw the plans for the set. Unbox PhD saw the layouts for it with a house titled Luke Cage. Well, not too long ago, we found out that Luke Cage is actually a code name for Chris Evans, a code name for Captain America. So this house is really the exact same house that we saw at the end of Avengers Endgame, the one that Captain America and Peggy Carter were in when they were dancing. And to top it all off, according to a new report today from insider Daniel RPK, he states a scene featuring Evans's Steve Rogers, Atwell's Peggy Carter, and RDJ's Dr. Doom set in the past is being filmed for Avengers Doomsday at Windsor Great Park right now. So this lines up with everything that we've heard so far from Unbox PhD. It lines up with the so-called Luke Cage house. And again, this is the perfect way to bring back Captain America, because Doom going to that actual point in time where Steve Rogers went back to as well, not only does that bring Chris Evans back as our actual Captain America, but it does seem to be the point where the incursion starts, where it begins, because it would make sense for Doom to go back at that exact point in time where Steve Rogers went back in time. If he went back after the incursion had already begun and it was already in full motion, then Dr. Doom would be too late. However, it does seem like Doom has a contingency plan if he is indeed too late, because he is going to go for some of these heroes. However, I think he'll find that they're not just going to let him kill them. He's not going to show up to Steve Rogers' home and just be like, "Hey, I gotta kill you. Here we go," and Steve lets it happen. Also, Steve should still have his shield. He lived this entire life in this other timeline with his shield. It wasn't until the very end when he was old that he went back to the time where he left in Avengers Endgame and gave the shield to Sam. So when Dr. Doom shows up, he should have his shield. But I think actually, when Dr. Doom first shows up to Steve Rogers' home, he's simply going to try to talk to him. I think he's going to use the fact that he looks like Tony Stark to his advantage. And instead of trying to fight him at first, he'll try to reason with him and simply explain what happened. "Hey, you can't be here. You have to go back. This is going to cause an incursion, etc., etc." But Steve doesn't know much about time travel or multiverse travel at that point in time. And he basically probably only knows what everybody else explained to him at the time, like Bruce Banner saying, going back and changing the past doesn't change your future, creates a separate timeline. A timeline that should have actually been pruned by the TVA. Yes, the TVA said that the Avengers were supposed to go back in time, but it seems like the Russo brothers and Stephen McFeely are going to write this in in a way that made it to where Steve wasn't actually supposed to stay back in time with Peggy. And that right there is what caused the incursion. Now, typically the TVA would erase or prune that timeline, but since Loki basically liberated the TVA, he has allowed the branches to exist and grow. And time is not linear for the TVA. But still, you could argue the events from Loki season 1 happened before Steve stayed back in time with Peggy, because Loki does leave kind of in the middle of Avengers Doomsday when the Avengers go back in time, and from there we pick up with the events of Loki season 1, which ends ultimately with Loki season 2 with Loki allowing the branches to happen. Branch timelines are no longer pruned, which is also probably why Doctor Doom is going to have beef with Loki, kind of for the same reason that Kang said you can't let that happen because it starts a multiversal war and incursions. And in a really interesting way, I don't think Marvel is straying too far from the original Kang story. I think Doctor Doom's just going to take on most of his arc, because Kang, or He Who Remains, really did believe that he was doing what was best for the main timeline. Pruning timelines prevents the multiversal war from happening again. It prevents his variants from appearing in these other timelines and then eventually discovering multiversal travel. So He Who Remains really did think he was doing what was best for the main timeline. And I believe Doom views himself in the same way that Kang viewed himself. We'll get into that in just a bit, but first, thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video. Y'all know I personally use Factor and I love Factor meals, and now Factor is even better. Factor now has more variety and more meals. You can choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. And now, for the first time, you can try Asian-inspired meals with bold flavors influenced by China, Thailand, and more. Instead of spending hours a week meal prepping, Factor arrives fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle. And if you're busy like me, Factor is a game changer. They take the time out of prepping and make it easy to eat healthy. With 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. Choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. All tasting great. I personally love Italian, and their different pasta options are fantastic. Factor powers your day with satisfying breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. They even have wellness shots as well. This summer, make eating healthy easy with Factor. To get started, go to factormeals.com/CosmicWonder50 off and use code CosmicWonder50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code CosmicWonder50 off at factormeals.com/CosmicWonder50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. So at this point, we have heard from multiple insiders that Doctor Doom really is trying to save the multiverse, and this is what he tries to do in the Time Runs Out story in the comics that leads right into Avengers Secret Wars. Secret Wars in the comics is just Battleworld. In the beginning of Secret Wars, they show us a little bit of the events that take place on Earth 616 in the Ultimates universe. Both universes get destroyed, and everybody, with the exception of the people in the life rafts, end up on Battleworld. In which, yes, Doctor Doom does rule over as a god, but prior to that, he does indeed try to save the multiverse. And based on all the reports that we've been hearing, it seems like Avengers Doomsday is basically the Time Runs Out story, and then Avengers Secret Wars is Secret Wars, Battleworld. So with these recent developments and confirmations, it does seem like everything that we've heard is seemingly true, which does mean that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom is going throughout the multiverse trying to destroy people who have caused incursions. Now, the other day, we went over 7 heroes that Doctor Doom could be hunting because they caused incursions. We go into a lot of detail as to why they caused incursions and why Doom would be hunting them. You can check out that video if you want a complete breakdown, but basically the characters would be Monica Rambeau, Doctor Strange, Steve Rogers, Peter Parker, Venom, the Scarlet Witch, and Deadpool. Now, there could be and should be other characters, of course, but these are kind of the main ones that we've met so far, and these aren't confirmed by any means, but these do make the most sense story-wise based on the movies we've seen in the past. And this does kind of also explain how Doctor Doom ends up in the X-Men universe. Again, thanks to Unbox PhD, we have seen the set photos where we have seen destroyed Sentinels on the grounds of the X-Mansion, and we have learned that there's going to be a fight with Doctor Doctor Doom and the X-Men, in which reportedly Doctor Doom will control the Sentinels and use them to fight them. But the question is, why is Doctor Doom there? Well, according to these new reports, he's there to take out Monica Rambeau, because her being from a different universe but staying in that universe is causing an incursion based off of the laws that we've learned in Multiverse of Madness. And I think Doctor Doom might start off going throughout the multiverse trying to talk to people and reason with them, but I think he's going to run into enough resistance that he kind of stops talking and just kind of starts to try to destroy these people who are causing the incursions right away. Plus, not to mention, if he really is trying to play himself off as Tony Stark, well, the X-Men have sidekicks. Professor X could probably tell that he's lying, and he probably wouldn't sit very well with Magneto either. This would ultimately, I believe, lead to Doctor Doom simply just attacking, believing that he has enough power to destroy everybody. And if he has Franklin Richards, then maybe he can, depending on how much access he has to his powers. But like I said before, I believe Doom has a contingency plan, and that contingency plan is Franklin Richards. We know that Doom takes Franklin Richards, and apparently the reason is so he could use his power to fix the incursions. So if he can't stop them, perhaps he can fix them with Franklin Richards. Now, while this is a cool concept and it does lead to Doctor Doom going to many different universes and these universes probably teaming up with each other, I think ultimately no matter what happens in Avengers Doomsday, the multiverse does end up getting destroyed, which will ultimately take us to Avengers Secret Wars, where Doctor Doom will be God Emperor Doom over Battleworld. How he becomes God Emperor Doom is still kind of a mystery at this point, but since Franklin is so powerful, it would make sense that he would get his power somehow. That part still remains to be a mystery, but it sounds like Avengers Doomsday is gonna be pretty great so far. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.